So today we thought we would do a video where we talked about Dior's IEPs, which are individual education programs. Dior was initially in early intervention program, but once she turned 3, she transitioned into preschool, and we had our first IEP last March, and we just finished our year review. What was it? Last week. Mm-hmm. So, you see a lot of videos about people talking about the, different experiences with IEPs, and we just thought we would take this a video to share our experience with our IEP process. Mm-hmm. So, what are your thoughts on the whole? Because since we've been able to have a whole year of doing IEPs, right, what are your thoughts on?
Well, so far, I don't have any complaints. I haven't really had anything to bring up. She gets all the therapies that they said that she was going to get. She gets the time in the classroom. She's really, really grown a lot. Everybody seems to be working very well together as her team at school. I had heard, quite a few different horror stories with the IEPs, and then having to get an advocate and having to get lawyers present, and, teachers and administration not working with the parents. But we have been blessed to get a good team. Everybody's on the same page. The therapists that she's working with at the school are doing the same thing as our private insurance therapists. Everybody seems to be on the same page. I will say this, though. An IEP meeting can be overwhelming, and it can be almost a slap in the face if you're not prepared. One thing about me and Quint, we have been very open and honest with Dior's delays. We have, we know and we see, and we're not in denial. So we are not going into these meetings, how would you say it? Like, we're not going in and we're not surprised by what they're saying, because we're seeing what they're saying. We're seeing at home, and we know she's delayed. We know she has some things that we need to work on, and we know that she has a lot of, what's the word?
What?
To gain.
Milestones?
A lot of traction to gain, or whatever. What's it called?
A lot of
progress to make. Yeah, a lot of progress to make. So, when we go into, even when we went in the first meeting, it was a lot of, she had, so the way it goes is, especially if you're going straight from early intervention through the state, switching into the school system. So you have your initial evaluations with all the therapies that the early intervention has told the school system that your child will most likely need. So we went and we had our evaluations. Then after those evaluations get done, they come together for your first IEP meeting, and that's where they lay it all on the table. They pretty much tell you everything that your child cannot do, which the more your child can't do is the more services they're going to actually get, especially if they need them. Why would you want to, why would you want to not get all the services that you can get for your child if they need it? So we went in for our first meeting. Like I said, it can be a little overwhelming because it's you and dad, or it's just you. It's just you not against, but in a room full of like 10 people?
Like 10 people.
Yeah, and go ahead.
No, and I think that, with the IEP, one of the biggest things is, I think what probably gets most people, and it got us in certain ways, I think what really gets people is, like, you really start, your child's limitations and some of the things they need to work on. But once you see it kind of spelled out.
See it on paper.
On paper, it can kind of be like, oh, man, it's like a
It's a slap in the face.
Or a punch in the stomach.
Or punch in the gut.
Oh my God, my child is, very delayed and far behind. Will she ever catch up? But so that was kind of, with the first meeting, with the initial meeting, that was something that was kind of like, oh man. But I mean, even though I knew it, seeing it on paper, but the good thing about it, with the report that we got, it kind of showed, what she needed to work on. But it seemed like everybody was positive in the sense saying that we think she can meet these certain goals by in a year's time, and they were open to our feedback and what we wanted to add or take away. Now that's something I think we are working on, is as far as like making sure we provide what we want. The teachers and stuff has certain criteria they go by to rate your child in different areas and stuff like that. But it's also good for you to come in and say, okay, these are some other things I also want to try to incorporate as we work on the different goals for your child.
Yeah. So last year, I guess it's every 9 weeks or something, they send home a progress report. And so you get a printout of all the goals that, your child has set, and then it gives you a grade on how well they're doing. So we've had all those, but just last week we went back for our, what'd you call it? Our
new annual
IEP meeting. And so we set new goals. We added some. We added, she gets OT, PT, speech. That's it, right?
Yeah, OT,
therapies.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so everything stayed the same as far as the quantity or the amount of time that they would see, except speech. So we're really lacking in speech. We really got to get some communication going. And so we upped speech. But one thing that the speech therapist, which is really good, she's like, Dior kind of loses focus around 15-20 minutes, and so I want to offer her more speech. But how about, tell me what you think? Again, she's asking me what I think as a mom. What do you think about doing 2 sessions of speech therapy versus 1 long session? In my mind, I'm like, well, that's great, because she can check out, and when Dior checks out, there's no checking her back in. So we upped that one, and then, like I said, they just came with new goals. We're gonna, work on things just as simple as taking her jacket off and hanging it in the cubby. That's definitely something that she's gonna need when she gets to kindergarten. Recognize your name so you know which cubby to put your jacket in. Pulling up your pants after we change your pull up. We added that. They're gonna work on walking on unleveled surfaces. A playground is not this smooth level thing. It's got grass, it's got gravel. You can see anything on a playground, and so Dior is a little bit wobbly in those stance, or in that area, and so they don't want to turn her loose when she gets to kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd grade, and be out there, and not be able to really hold herself up. So that's another thing that we're working on, and so we feel really good about the new IEP. This IEP will carry her through pre-K 4, but as they have said, if we have any issues, if we have any concerns, if we need to change something, let them know. They've been great. I mean, I haven't had any issues, but a lot of the concerns that I was telling Quint, a lot of the concerns, or a lot of the people that I feel have concerns with their child, they tend to be older. So it's not a lot of preschool parents that are, that I've seen and read stories about having issues. It's the older kids. So we haven't made it there yet. So far, so good.
Yeah, and I think, the main thing for us is, and something that I definitely want to make sure as we move to this time around with the IEPs, making sure we align what she does in school, also reinforce it at home, as well as make sure outside therapies that she has are are aware of the goals that she's working on at school. Because I think with Dior is, you know, one of the biggest things I think is her focus. You know, but I think her focus will improve as we continue to reinforce all that she's learning at school at home. Because I think sometimes we kind of can get a slack or in our working with her with certain things at home. So we've really been taking this time with this IEP and kind of breaking it down into, okay, what do we need to work on at home? So she's getting those skills at home, but also, you know, still build in time for her just to be a kid, because, you know, you can't have an overload in therapy, because like I said, she does therapy at school, she has outside therapies, but we also want to do those therapies at home. So I mean, for me, I think, you know, if give any advice to anybody that's getting ready to get their first IEP, you know, if you don't feel confident in, you know, being in that setting by yourself, you know, you can always, I've read where people have, like you said, an advocate or someone from their early intervention program that kind of knows the language, because, you know, a lot of those terms and acronyms for different stuff, it can kind of be overwhelming, but, you know, just have an advocate in there, and, you know, don't be afraid to speak up if you have questions.
Definitely have to advocate for your child.
Yeah, you definitely have to advocate for your child. But like I said, our experience so far in the year that we've been in the whole IEP process has been pretty good. And I mean, I am aware that, you know, things change. Like, for instance, with Dior, the current school she's zoned for, the current school she go to now is not the current school she's going to be zoned for when she starts kindergarten. So that's a whole different staff, and it may be different. So I think, you know, we're doing a better job of taking a hands-on approach, especially as far as for myself. Like, one thing I've committed myself to do is make sure I be as involved in those outside therapy sessions, because in the past I just kind of, you know, with the outside therapies, since mom is primarily home most of the time, she was responsible for going to those therapies. But I'm trying to make sure I'm more up to speed and going to some of those therapies, as well as I've been able to go to all the IEP meetings. So I think it's good to, when you have a partner, you can bounce different things off of, because one person may have gotten something from it that you may not have gotten from it, or some person may have a question. Like, for instance, at the last IEP meeting, I was just trying to get a good understanding. Okay, as far as like physical therapy, different therapies, what are you guys doing so I can model that at home as far as different tasks you have Dior do. But all in all, like I said, I think we both agree that it's been an interesting experience, but it's been a good one.
Yeah, it's been good. I have no complaints. If I could give any advice to anybody, is that, you know, is getting prepared to have their IEP meeting, or you know that's going to be in your future, is to definitely just go in with an open mind and know that no matter how much they say your child can't do, it's all just testing. So one of her therapists has told me that in the past that the book testing is going to show you the limitations, but they can't really test for what a lot of the stuff that your child may do. So this test may say they can't do this, they can't do this, they can't do this, but it's also not going to give them the option for they can do this, they can do this, they can do this. So, I mean, I would just encourage anybody to just mentally just try to be as prepared as you can, and try to, you know, in that being prepared, know some of the things your child can't do, but at the same time, know what your child can do, because you can tell them, like, hey, I know you might not have seen it that day, but they actually can do this, and it might affect, you know, something, or it might give the teacher something to look out for to be able to help your child in the future. So, you know, don't get overwhelmed. Don't get down and out. You know that, you know, as a whole, most of the time, I can't speak for every school, but they want to do what's best for your child, and they want to help, and they're there to help you. They're there to, help your child. So, try to work together, try to be open-minded, and give them as much information as you can on your child, and just enjoy the roller coaster.
So that pretty much sums up, what we wanted to talk about in this video. If you guys, one of the ways, if you find value in this, guys, please give us a like. Please give us a share. Please subscribe. So that kind of encourages us to keep making this type of content. We do have a community tab, if you're not aware, where we do post in there sometimes. Even though our comment section is cut off, we do have a community tab. So if you want to reach out to us, you can always email us. You can always hit us on Instagram. And we will catch you guys on the next video. Have a blessed day.